Sam Carter looked out the window of the transport ship at the gleaming towers of HFY. He still couldn't believe he was here. 6 months ago, he had been solving math problems in his Nebraska bedroom. Now, he was the first human child ever accepted to the Galactic Academy of Sciences. Sam was 12 years old, small for his age, with unruly brown hair and bright blue eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His teachers back on Earth had run out of tests to give him by the time he was 10. When the Draconians announced they would accept applications from Earth for the first time, Sam's parents had submitted his work without telling him. "We're beginning our descent," the ship's computer announced. "All passengers prepare for landing." Sam's stomach fluttered with nerves as he secured his safety harness. The other passengers, mostly tall, scale-skinned Draconians, barely acknowledged his presence. Humans had only been part of the Galactic Commonwealth for 15 years. Most older species still viewed them as barely civilized primitives who had stumbled upon faster-than-light travel through luck rather than skill. The Academy grounds spread below them, a sprawling complex of crystal and metal. Sam had memorized the map, but seeing it in person was overwhelming. He would be staying in the junior scholars' dormitory, separated from the few other humans on the planet by several miles. His parents had been worried about that, but Sam had insisted he would be fine. "You are human student Carter?" A Draconian official waited at the bottom of the ramp when Sam disembarked. The alien was nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales and yellow eyes with vertical pupils. "Yes, sir." Sam Carter from Earth. Sam tried to stand taller, remembering the etiquette lessons Earth's ambassador had given him. "I am Supervisor Zex. Follow me." The Draconian turned without waiting for a response. Sam hurried after him, practically jogging to keep up with the alien's long strides. Other Draconians watched him pass, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. A few younger aliens pointed and whispered. His room was small but comfortable, with a learning terminal built into one wall and a window overlooking one of the Academy's many gardens. Supervisor Zex explained the basic rules, speaking slowly, as if Sam might not understand. "Classes begin tomorrow. Your schedule has been uploaded to your personal device. Do not be late. Do not enter restricted areas. Do not disturb the other students with human behaviors." "What human behaviors, sir?" Sam asked, genuinely confused. Zex made a dismissive gesture. "Excessive emotionality, constant questions, touching of personal belongings. You are here because your mathematical abilities are acceptable by our standards. This is a test case for future human admissions. Do not cause problems." After Zex left, Sam sat on his bed, suddenly feeling very far from home. He called his parents on the communication device they had given him. Their faces appeared on the small screen, relieved to see him. "How is it, honey?" his mother, Diane, asked. She had her nurse's uniform on, getting ready for her night shift. "It's big," Sam said. "Everyone's really tall. The buildings are amazing, though. I think my math professor is actually from a gas giant planet. He sort of ... floats." His father, Frank, laughed. "That's my boy. First day on an alien world, and you're already excited about your teachers." They talked for a few more minutes before Sam had to let them go. His father had to drive his truck route, and his mother had patients waiting. They were ordinary people who had somehow produced an extraordinary child, and they had sacrificed to give him this opportunity. "We're so proud of you, Sam," his mother said before disconnecting. "You're showing the whole galaxy what humans can do." Sam spent the rest of the day exploring the parts of the Academy grounds that were open to junior students. In the library, he marveled at physical books written in languages from 100 worlds. In the dining hall, he cautiously tried food that seemed safe for human consumption. A few other junior scholars, none human, nodded to him, but kept their distance. Classes began early the next morning. Sam quickly discovered that while he was advanced for a human, the Academy's standards were challenging, even for him. He worked harder than he ever had, staying up late to study and waking early to review. Some of the alien students seemed surprised at his dedication. One young Centaurian actually spoke to him during molecular engineering class. "You are very focused for a human," she said. Her name was Alara, and she had 4 arms and skin that shifted colors with her mood. "I don't want to let Earth down," Sam replied honestly. The weeks passed quickly. Sam made a few acquaintances, though no real friends. His professors noted his progress with what seemed like surprise. He called his parents every night, telling them about his discoveries, asking about their days, missing the simplicity of home, even as he loved the complexity of the Academy. It happened during his 3rd month. Sam was working late in the quantum computing lab, trying to understand a problem that had been bothering him for days. The Academy's central computer system was available to students for research, with different access levels depending on their courses. Sam had found that if he approached a problem from an unexpected angle, sometimes new information would become available. He was trying various search parameters when suddenly a new dataset appeared on his screen. It was beautiful, a complex model of quantum entanglement at a level far beyond what he'd been studying. For hours, he lost himself in the equations, taking notes, seeing connections he'd never imagined. It was only when the lab's automatic lighting shifted to night mode that he realized how long he'd been working. He saved his notes to his personal device and logged out of the system, yawning as he headed back to his dormitory. The next morning, 2 security officers were waiting outside his room. Both were Draconians, wearing the black uniforms of the Academy's Enforcement Division. "Student Carter, you will come with us," one said. It wasn't a request. They took him to an interrogation room deep within the administration building. 3 senior Draconians waited there, including Supervisor Zex. Their scales seemed duller than usual, which Sam had learned indicated serious displeasure. "You accessed restricted research data last night," the eldest Draconian said without preamble. "Research that is not permitted to be shared with lesser species." Sam's heart raced. "I didn't know it was restricted. It just appeared when I was working on my quantum computing assignment. Ignorance is not an excuse," Zex said. "The files you accessed contain secrets the Draconian Science Guild has protected for centuries. Information that could shift the balance of power if certain species obtained it." "I was just trying to learn," Sam protested. "I didn't copy anything except my own notes." The 3 Draconians exchanged looks. "Your notes have been confiscated. This matter will be referred to the High Council. Until then, you are confined to a security cell." 24 hours later, Sam learned his fate. The Draconian High Council had reviewed his case and determined that his actions constituted espionage, regardless of intent. Under Commonwealth law, espionage against a founding species was punishable by death. Earth's ambassador, Ellen Wright, fought desperately through diplomatic channels. Sam's parents launched appeals that reached the highest levels of the Commonwealth. Senate. Petitions signed by millions of humans demanded justice for a curious child. It made no difference. 1 week after his discovery, Sam was formally sentenced to public execution, to be broadcast across the Commonwealth as a deterrent against similar violations. In his cell, Sam recorded a final message to his parents. He tried to be brave, though. Tears slipped down his cheeks. "I just wanted to learn," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I let everyone down." Across Earth, his message was played on every news channel. A planet that had been divided on many issues found itself united in horror and grief for one small boy who had reached for the stars. The day of the execution dawned clear and bright on Draconis Prime. The 3 suns cast multiple shadows across the ceremonial plaza, where hundreds of Draconians gathered to witness justice being served. By Commonwealth law, all executions had to be public and broadcast to all member worlds as a deterrent against crime. In a small holding room near the plaza, Sam Carter sat quietly on a bench. He wore a simple white garment provided by his captors. His face was pale but composed. At 12 years old, he showed a dignity that surprised even the draconian guards assigned to watch him. The door opened, and a human woman entered. Lieutenant Olivia Reyes wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's Space Force with its silver star insignia. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her brown eyes were hard as she looked at the guards. "I need a moment alone with the prisoner," she said in perfect draconian. The guards hesitated, then nodded and stepped outside. Olivia knelt in front of Sam. "I'm Earth's official witness," she explained gently. "Your parents wanted to come, but the Draconians would only allow one representative." Sam nodded. "Are they okay?" Olivia's expression softened. "They're being brave, just like you. They want you to know they love you very much, and they're not giving up." "But it's too late, isn't it?" Sam asked. Olivia couldn't lie to him. The Commonwealth Senate voted against intervention. Earth stands alone in protesting this. Sam looked down at his hands. "I really didn't mean to see those files. I was just curious." "I know." Olivia took his hand. She was a veteran of the Mars Rebellion, decorated for bravery under fire. But this mission, watching a child die for the crime of curiosity, was testing her strength in ways combat never had. "Lieutenant Reyes, I'm scared," Sam whispered. "Call me Olivia," she said. "And it's okay to be scared. Being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you keep going anyway." A bell sounded, signaling it was time. The guards returned and gestured for them to follow. Sam walked between the guards with his head held high. Olivia followed a step behind, her face a mask of controlled fury. As they entered the plaza, the crowd of Draconians fell silent. On a raised platform stood the members of the High Council, their scales gleaming with ceremonial oils. Frank and Diane Carter were already there, standing in a special viewing area surrounded by guards. The Draconians considered this an honor allowing the family to be present. To humans, it was one more cruelty. Diane reached for her son, but a guard blocked her. "Sam," she called, her voice breaking, "we love you." "I love you too, Mom, Dad." Sam's voice was clear in the quiet plaza. The Draconian executor, dressed in ceremonial black robes, stepped forward. His voice boomed across the plaza and through the broadcast systems that carried his words to every Commonwealth world. "Samuel Carter of Earth, you have been found guilty of espionage against the Draconian people. You accessed information forbidden to lesser species, violating our most sacred security protocols. The sentence is death, to be carried out immediately." The executor turned to Sam. "Have you any final words?" Sam looked around at the alien faces, then at his parents, and finally at Olivia. He seemed to stand taller as he spoke. "I just wanted to learn," he said. "That's all humans ever want, to understand the universe better. I hope someday you'll understand we're not your enemies." A murmur ran through the crowd. The executor frowned and gestured to the guards, who led Sam to a circular platform in the center of the plaza. A crystalline device hung above it, humming with energy. "The condemned may choose to be blindfolded," the executor announced, following protocol. "No," Sam said. "I want to see." On Earth, billions watched the broadcast. Schools had been closed for the day. Families gathered around screens, many holding vigils and protests. Earth's small fleet of 12 warships orbiting the planet dimmed their running lights in tribute. The execution beam activated with a high-pitched whine. A column of blue light descended from the crystal device. Sam's eyes widened, and then it was over. Where the boy had stood, there was nothing. The camera panned to the official witnesses. Frank Carter held his wife as she collapsed in grief. And for just a moment, the broadcast showed Lieutenant Olivia Reyes face a look of such cold fury that many who saw it felt a chill. The draconian executor spoke the ritual closing words. Justice has been served. The integrity of our knowledge. Boundaries must be maintained. The broadcast ended. Earth observed 7 days of mourning. Black ribbons appeared on doors and in public spaces. Children left toys and books at makeshift memorials. At night, people shined lights toward the stars, a gesture of remembrance for a boy who had wanted nothing more than to learn about the universe. In the White House, President Dale Morgan sat alone in the Oval Office, watching the execution for the 5th time. His military advisors waited silently nearby. They didn't even give him a proper trial, the president said quietly. They just ended him. Admiral Kathy Sullivan, head of Earth's Defense Forces, stepped forward. She was a tall woman with gray-streaked red hair and the bearing of someone used to command. Mr. President, about the Prometheus Protocol. Not yet, Kathy, he interrupted. Let them think we're just grieving. Let them think we're weak. On the 3rd day of mourning, the draconian ambassador gave a press conference on Earth. His scales gleamed with satisfaction as he addressed human reporters. The Commonwealth regrets that this unfortunate incident occurred, he said without a trace of sincerity. However, rules must be followed by all species, regardless of age or intent. This matter is now closed. A reporter asked if the Draconians felt the punishment fit the crime. The ambassador laughed. Your species is young and emotional. You will learn that in the galactic community, actions have consequences. The boy accessed information that could have destabilized power structures maintained for millennia. He was 12 years old, the reporter said. Age is irrelevant. The law is absolute. The ambassador's eyes narrowed. Now, I understand your government is considering withdrawing from the Commonwealth. I would advise against such a rash action. Humans are quite dependent on Commonwealth technology and trade. In orbit above Earth, Lieutenant Olivia Reyes reported to the flagship of Earth's small fleet. She had returned from Draconis Prime the previous day, bringing with her the official record of the execution. Captain Alan Patel of the EDF Defender greeted her solemnly. Was it as bad as it looked on the broadcast? Worse, she said. They enjoyed it, Captain. They enjoyed showing a lesser species its place. Patel's jaw tightened. Report to Admiral Sullivan when you've rested. She wants your complete account. Olivia nodded. The Admiral mentioned something called Prometheus Protocol in her message. What is that? You'll find out soon enough, Patel said, looking out at the stars. Everything is about to change. President Dale Morgan stood before the United Nations General Assembly 3 days after Sam Carter's execution. The room was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Screens behind him showed the faces of billions watching the young. BROADC-ST worldwide. Today, he said, his voice steady and resolved, Earth officially withdraws from the Galactic Commonwealth. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Though many had expected this move, hearing it declared made it real. We will not participate in a system that murders children for their curiosity, Morgan continued. We joined the Commonwealth 15 years ago with hope and excitement. We believed the promises of shared knowledge and mutual respect. Those promises were lies. On Draconis Prime, the Commonwealth Senate received the news with dismissive amusement. The Draconian High Speaker addressed the gathered representatives of 200 worlds. The humans are having an emotional reaction, he said. They will return when they realize how dependent they are on our technology and trade routes. A senator from the Centauran Alliance raised a hand. Perhaps we should offer some concession? The execution of a child has disturbed many worlds, not just Earth. The High Speaker's scales darkened. Would you question the judicial decisions of a founding species? The humans must learn their place in the galactic order. Their withdrawal is merely a tantrum. They will suffer for it, and then they will return humbled. What the Commonwealth didn't know was what was happening behind Earth's newly activated planetary shields. For years, a secret program called Prometheus Protocol had been developing technology reverse-engineered from various alien sources. Admiral Kathy Sullivan walked through a massive underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Beside her, Lieutenant Olivia Reyes stared in shock at the huge construction bays where ships were being assembled. How long has this been going on? Olivia asked. Since we first joined the Commonwealth, Sullivan answered. We always knew this day might come. The Draconians and the other older species never intended to treat us as equals. They stopped at a viewing platform overlooking a ship unlike any in Earth's known fleet. It was sleek and black, with weapon systems that glowed with energy Olivia didn't recognize. This is the EDF Vengeance, Admiral Sullivan said, the first of our new fleet. There are 30 more like it in hidden shipyards throughout the asteroid belt. But how? The Commonwealth carefully monitored our technology development. Sullivan smiled grimly. They monitored what we wanted them to see. Our best scientists, engineers, and hackers have been working in secret, adapting and improving technologies. From a dozen worlds, we played dumb, Lieutenant. We acted less advanced than we were while learning everything we could. In labs across the planet, scientists who had been pretending technological incompetence now worked openly on systems that shocked even their human colleagues. Computer specialists revealed programs that could penetrate Commonwealth security. Weapons designers tested devices that could disable draconian shields at the Space Force Academy in Colorado. New tactics were being taught to pilots and ship captains. Earth had only 12 warships in its official fleet. The truth was different. Hidden in the asteroid belt and beneath the surface of Mars, 40 new vessels waited for their crews. Frank and Diane Carter were brought to the White House a week after their son's execution. They sat in a private office, eyes red from crying, as President Morgan explained what was happening. We can't bring Sam back, the president said gently, but we can make sure his death wasn't meaningless. Diane gripped her husband's hand. What are you planning to do? We're going to change the galaxy, Morgan answered. The Draconians have ruled through fear and technology suppression for too long. Sam accidentally discovered one of their secrets. We've discovered many more. Frank looked up. Will there be war? We hope not, Morgan said. We don't want revenge. We want justice. Not just for Sam, but for every species the Draconians have kept down. On what would have been Sam's 13th birthday, Earth made its move. The planetary shields dropped briefly as hundreds of ships emerged from hidden bases across the solar system. The official Earth Defense Force of 12 vessels remained in orbit as a decoy. Admiral Sullivan addressed the assembled captains from the bridge of the Vengeance. Her image appeared on the command screens of every ship. This mission is not about revenge, she said firmly. We are not going to become what we hate. Our targets are military and governmental only. No civilian casualties, if it can be avoided. We come for justice, not vengeance. Captain Ryan Kelly of the Vengeance nodded to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Prepare for jump to Draconis Prime. Across the fleet, officers gave similar orders. Lieutenant Olivia Reyes, now promoted to commander, led a special strike team aboard the Vengeance. Her mission was to capture the Draconian High Council alive. For Sam, someone whispered as the fleet prepared to jump. Olivia touched the picture. Of Sam she kept in her pocket. For all of us, she corrected, for justice. In 12 strategic locations across Commonwealth space, Earthships appeared simultaneously. The Commonwealth response was disorganized and confused. They had expected Earth to withdraw into isolation, not to emerge with a fleet that outmatched their own. On the Commonwealth capital world, the Senate was in session when alarms blared. The Draconian High Speaker looked up in shock as reports flooded in. "Impossible," he hissed. "The humans can't have this technology." A junior aide rushed in. "High Speaker, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's being broadcast across all Commonwealth channels." Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the Senate's main screen. Her expression was calm but determined. "People of the Commonwealth," she said, "for 15 years, Earth has endured second-class status in your community. We accepted restrictions on our development. We followed your rules. And then you executed a child for the crime of learning too much." The Senate chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. The High Speaker tried to cut the transmission, but Commonwealth systems were no longer responding to draconian commands. "We come for justice, not revenge," Sullivan continued. "Stand aside or stand against us. The choice is yours, but be warned. Earth will no longer bow to tyrants who fear knowledge in the hands of those they consider lesser." The Commonwealth fleet moved to intercept Earth's ships. They expected an easy victory against what they thought was primitive human technology. They were wrong. Earth vessels easily disabled Commonwealth ships with targeted electromagnetic pulses that caused no casualties. Draconian vessels that resisted more aggressively found their weapon systems mysteriously failing. The Vengeance broke through HFY's defenses in less than an hour. Ground teams led by Commander Reyes secured the High Council chambers while facing minimal resistance. "How is this possible?" the Draconian High Counselor demanded as Reyes placed him in restraints. "Your species is barely out of its stone age." Olivia smiled coldly. "You shouldn't have killed our child." Within 24 hours, Earth forces had secured control of 12 key Commonwealth installations. The Draconian High Council members were in custody aboard the Vengeance, confined but treated humanely. Admiral Sullivan had given strict orders that they were to face justice, not abuse. News spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Draconian influence for centuries watched in amazement as the humans considered primitives by most displayed technology and tactical skills that surpassed even the oldest Commonwealth members. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Ryan Kelly received reports from Earthships across the galaxy. His blue eyes were tired but satisfied as he turned to Admiral Sullivan. "All targets secured, Admiral. Minimal casualties on both sides. The Commonwealth fleet has stood down." Sullivan nodded. "And the data retrieval?" Commander Reyes reports complete success. Her teams have downloaded the contents of the Draconian Central Archives. They found exactly what we suspected. In the secure server room deep within the Draconian High Council building, Olivia Reyes directed her team as they copied massive amounts of data. The information confirmed what Earth intelligence had suspected for years. The Draconians had been artificially suppressing the technological development of younger species. "Look at this," said Lieutenant Paul Green, pointing to a file on his screen. "They've been altering the specifications they share with other worlds. The faster-than-light drive designs they gave us were deliberately flawed to limit our range and speed." Olivia leaned over his shoulder. "Download everything. Every secret they've kept. Every technology they've hoarded. We're going to share it all." The most damning evidence was a Draconian internal memo regarding Sam's case. Olivia read it with growing anger. The human child must be executed not for what he did, but for what his kind might become if they continue to learn at this rate. The quantum entanglement principles he accessed could allow humans to develop communication and transport systems beyond our control within a decade. They had killed Sam not for security reasons, But out of fear of human potential, Olivia closed her eyes briefly, remembering the boy's courage in his final moments. "Copy that file separately," she ordered. "Make sure it gets to the President and to Sam's parents." Back on Earth, President Morgan addressed the United Nations again. The mood was very different, now a mixture of pride, shock, and determination. The Draconian High Council members will be brought to Earth to stand trial for crimes against humanity, he announced. But this is not just about Sam Carter or even about Earth. We have discovered evidence that the Draconians have been deliberately suppressing technological development across the Commonwealth for centuries. Screens around the chamber displayed data from the Draconian archives. Representatives gasped as they saw the extent of the deception. "We will be broadcasting this evidence to every Commonwealth world," Morgan continued. "Additionally, we will be sharing the true, unaltered versions of technologies the Draconians have kept for themselves. No longer will any species be held back by artificial restrictions." Across the Commonwealth, the revelation caused chaos. In the Senate chambers, representatives argued fiercely as they realized how they had been manipulated. Younger species that had always been treated as inferior suddenly had access to technologies they had been told were beyond their understanding. The Centaurian senator, who had questioned Sam's execution, now stood before his peers. "For too long, we accepted the Draconian claim that they were protecting us from technologies we weren't ready for. We allowed them to execute a human child because they told us it was necessary. We were wrong." On dozens of worlds, protests erupted against local governments that had supported Draconian policies. Commonwealth officials who had benefited from the arrangement found themselves facing angry citizens, demanding answers. In orbit around Earth, the captured Draconian High Council members were transferred to a secure facility for their upcoming trial. As they were led off the shuttle, crowds gathered behind barriers, watching silently. There were no shouts or threats, just the quiet intensity of a people determined to see justice done properly. Frank and Diane Carter stood at a distance, watching the aliens who had ordered their son's death. President Morgan stood beside them. "We could have executed them," he said quietly. "Many people wanted us to." Diane shook her head. "That's what they would have done. We're better than that." Frank put his arm around his wife. "Sam wouldn't have wanted revenge. He just wanted everyone to learn." In the weeks that followed, Earth became the center of a diplomatic revolution. Representatives from 30 Commonwealth worlds arrived to discuss a new alliance, one based on shared knowledge rather than suppression and fear. Admiral Sullivan met with military leaders from former Commonwealth worlds. Rather than threatening them with Earth's superior technology, she offered partnerships. "Earth doesn't seek to replace the Draconians as galactic bullies," she told them. "We want a community of equals. Yes, we hid our capabilities. We had to, but now we can work together openly." On the Vengeance, now orbiting Earth, Captain Kelly showed visitors from other worlds through the ship. Many were amazed at the technology humans had developed in secret. "How did you advance so quickly?" asked a Rigelian admiral, examining the ship's propulsion system. Kelly smiled. "We've always been quick learners. The Draconians made a fundamental mistake. They gave us just enough knowledge to start asking questions, but then tried to stop us from finding answers." Commander Reyes spent time with Sam's parents, sharing details about the mission and the changes happening across the galaxy. He would have loved seeing all these different species working together, Diane said, looking at pictures of the diplomatic meetings. Olivia nodded. In a way, he made it happen. Not just his death, his spirit. The way he faced everything with courage and curiosity. The trial of the Draconian High Council began 2 months after their capture. It was broadcast across Earth and to all former Commonwealth worlds. Unlike Sam's hasty sentencing, This was a true trial with evidence, witnesses, and defense counsel. The lead prosecutor opened with a simple statement. This case is about abuse of power. It's about a civilization so afraid of losing control that they would execute a child for learning too much. The evidence from the draconian archives was devastating. Documents showed centuries of deliberate suppression, altered technologies, and threats against species that showed too much initiative. The memo about Sam's case proved that his execution had nothing to do with security and everything to do with fear of human potential. On the final day of testimony, Frank Carter took the stand. He spoke not with anger, but with sadness. "My son just wanted to understand the universe better," he said. "That's all humans have ever wanted. We explore, we question, we learn. If that frightens you, the problem isn't with us. It's with you." The high counselors sat impassively, their scaled faces unreadable to human eyes. But observers from their own species noted subtle signs of shame in their posture and coloring dot as the trial proceeded. Earth ships continued to share the unaltered technologies with worlds across the galaxy. Species that had been kept dependent on draconian assistance found themselves suddenly able to solve problems that had plagued them for generations. A new order was beginning to form, born from the death of one curious child and the determination of his people to ensure it never happened again. 6 months after Earth's operations across Commonwealth space, representatives from 30 former Commonwealth worlds gathered in Geneva for the signing of the Terran Accords. The agreement would create a new alliance based on principles of knowledge sharing and mutual defense. The Grand Hall of Nations was decorated with flags from Earth and alien worlds. Security was tight but unobtrusive. The mood was one of cautious hope. Frank and Diane Carter had been given the honor of opening the ceremony. They stood together at the podium, still marked by grief, but now with purpose in their eyes. Frank spoke first, his voice steady. "Our son died because he wanted to learn. Let no child anywhere in the galaxy ever face punishment for seeking knowledge again." Diane placed a framed photo of Sam on the podium. "This alliance is built on his memory, not just as a symbol of injustice, but as a reminder of what we all share: curiosity, the desire to grow, to understand each other and our universe." President Morgan then introduced the first article of the Terran Accords. "Knowledge shall be freely shared among all member worlds. No technology shall be withheld on grounds of species, age, or origin. One by one, representatives from each world signed the document. Some were former Commonwealth senators who had opposed draconian policies. Others were from worlds that had suffered under centuries of technological suppression. The Centaurian representative, whose people had been among the first to join Earth after the revelations, spoke of change. "For too long, we accepted a system that ranked species by age rather than potential. Today, we begin anew." Outside the hall, crowds of humans and visiting aliens watched on large screens. Children sat on parents' shoulders. Students from universities around the world held signs with Sam's picture and quotes about learning and exploration. The verdict in the Draconian High Council trial had been delivered the week before. After considering all evidence, the International Tribunal had sentenced the council members not to death, as many had expected, but to educational service. The council members will spend the rest of their lives teaching draconian science to children from all species. The chief judge had announced they will share all knowledge they previously hoarded, under supervision at the newly established Sam Carter Institute for Interstellar Studies. The sentence had been controversial. Many humans had wanted harsher punishment. Admiral Sullivan had supported the decision. "Execution would have made us no better than them," she told reporters. "This way, they serve a purpose. They help build what they tried to prevent: a galaxy where knowledge flows freely." The Sam Carter Institute was already under construction on a campus outside Boston. It would welcome its first students within the year, gifted children from Earth and 30 other worlds. The Draconians would teach alongside human and alien educators, sharing knowledge that had been restricted for centuries. Commander Olivia Reyes had been appointed head of security for the Institute. After the signing ceremony, she walked with Frank and Diane Carter through the partially completed buildings. The children will study in mixed groups, she explained, pointing to classrooms designed to accommodate different physiologies. No species isolation. They learn together, from each other as much as from their teachers. Diane touched a wall where children from around Earth had painted messages and pictures. Sam would have loved this place. He's the reason it exists, Olivia said gently. Frank looked out at the construction. Do you think the Draconians will ever understand what they did wrong? Some already do, Olivia replied. 2 of the junior council members have expressed genuine remorse. They were raised in a system that taught fear of other species. Working with children from those same species is changing them. Earth had emerged as a different kind of galactic power, not one that ruled through fear or technological superiority, but through a commitment to justice and shared progress. The Terran fleet, now the strongest in the galaxy, operated under strict ethical protocols developed by Admiral Sullivan and Commander Reyes. We patrol trade routes that were once controlled by Draconian forces, Captain Kelly explained to a group of cadets at the Space Force Academy. But we don't demand tribute or special treatment. We protect all ships equally. The monument to Sam on the grounds of the Institute became a pilgrimage site for students from hundreds of worlds. The statue showed him looking up at the stars, a book in one hand and the other hand extended upward. The plaque beneath reads simply, "One child, one execution, one broadcast, and Earth burned for justice." A year after the signing of the Terran Accords, the first graduation ceremony was held at the Sam Carter Institute. Students from 31 worlds received certificates in various sciences. Among the graduates was a young Draconian named Zeth, who had been the first of his species to volunteer to study alongside other species. "My people were wrong," he said in his graduation speech. "We feared what would happen if knowledge was shared. Now we see that when we learn together, we all become more than we could have been alone." In the decades that followed, humans became known not for their vengeance, but for their unwavering defense of the defenseless across the galaxy. The Terran Accords eventually expanded to include even former enemies, creating an era of unprecedented peace and scientific advancement. Admiral Sullivan retired 5 years after the formation of the Alliance. At her retirement ceremony, she reflected on how far they had come. "We could have used our technological advantage to become the new tyrants of the galaxy," she said. "Many expected us to. Instead, we chose a harder path, building a community where no species dominates another, where knowledge flows freely, and where a child's curiosity is celebrated, not punished." The Draconians themselves slowly changed. The younger generations, educated alongside humans and other species, rejected their ancestors' fear of sharing knowledge. Some even joined the Terran fleet, serving alongside the same humans they had once considered primitives. On graduation day each year at the Galactic Academy of Sciences, now relocated to Earth, a moment of silence was observed for the boy whose death changed the course of galactic history, not because of how he died, but because of how his people refused to let his death be meaningless. Frank and Diane Carter lived to see this transformation. They attended every graduation day at the institute named for their son. They watched as former enemies became allies, as knowledge once hoarded by the few spread to benefit many, and as the name Carter became synonymous, not with tragedy, but with hope. "He would have been 30 today," Diane said on the 18th anniversary of Sam's death, standing beside his monument as students from 50 worlds placed small tokens of respect at its base. Frank squeezed her hand. In a way, "He's still learning," he said, watching the diverse group of students, through all of them. And somewhere in the vast universe that Sam had so wanted to understand, perhaps something of his spirit lived on in every child who looked. Up at the stars without fear, in every discovery shared freely across worlds, and in the alliance that ensured no child would ever again die for the crime of wanting to learn.